The 1990s were Michael Jordan's decade in the NBA. While he was winning 6 titles with the Bulls, 29 other organizations missed out on championship glory. These are the stories of some of the teams that were relegated to footnotes on MJ's path to the top. Let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs were established in 1970 and, save for a trip to the Eastern Conference Finals in 1976, was sorry until the H.W. Bush administration. Before stretching the late 80s and early 90s, they were one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. What people remember more, Michael Jordan doing ungodly things to them. But please understand, those Cavs were loaded. 1986 was a great year to draft a square in the NBA. And that's exactly what the Cavs did when they took center Brad Daugherty from North Carolina with the #1 overall pick, who somehow played 4 college seasons and was a rookie at 20. After Dallas selected Mark Price at the top of the second round, Cleveland acquired the 6-foot, 170-pound point guard from Georgia Tech.
There is Price. What a great shot.
Daugherty and Price combined to make 9 All-Star teams in Cleveland. In the same draft, Cleveland took Ron Harper, a big athletic two-way guard with the 8th pick. Say what you want about Cleveland having bad luck, but the Cavs did something borderline impossible. They nailed 3 straight picks in the 1986 draft, the most bust-filled draft ever. The Cavs also drafted Kevin Johnson in 1987, but traded him that season to the Suns for power forward Larry Nance, winner of the first NBA Slam Dunk Contest. That was a hell of a collection of talent for a franchise whose winning percentage in its first 19 years was worse than every other team during that time but the Clippers. Lenny Wilkens was the man in charge of these Cavs. Wilkens is the first person to make the Basketball Hall of Fame as both player and coach. He took the lead in all-time coaching wins from Red Auerbach, was the first coach to win 1,000 games, and he coached the 1996 men's Olympic team. He also won a championship with the 1979 Seattle Supersonics. In 1986, he took over the Cavs. In his second season, the Cavs made the playoffs. They won 57 games in his third year and made the Eastern Conference Finals in 1992, something they wouldn't do again until LeBron James came to town. The Cavs window opened in 1988-89 when they won 57 games. This was an amazing breakthrough, with 15 more wins than the previous season with what was basically the same roster as the year before, minus sharpshooter Del Curry. From 89 until Wilkens left Cleveland in 1993, the Cavs recorded 3 50-win seasons. That may not sound impressive, but that 89-90 season might have gone differently had the Cavs not sent Ron Harper and a couple of first-round picks to the Clippers for Danny Ferry, who wasn't even active that season, and Reggie Williams. Then, the following season, Price tore his ACL, and the Cavs won a mere 33 games that year. Price returned in 91-92 and picked up where he left off, and Daugherty was a consistent all-star at center. Every year in the window, the Cavs had at least 4 double-digit scores. In 93, they had 6, but also ranked 5th in points allowed and 8th in field goal percentage allowed. In fact, the Cavaliers ranked 4th in points allowed in their 7 seasons under Wilkens. Close of the window came when Wilkens departed after the 93 playoffs. In came Mike Fratello, and after a season, out went points. They just gave up on trying to score. There were lots of guys to like on the Cavs for lots of reasons. We'll start with Price, who's become one of the most underrated players of his time. He was one of the great shooters of all time and made All-NBA 4 times, including first team in 92-93. Then there was Daugherty, a big old country boy from Black Mountain, North Carolina, who was just a notch below the great centers of his day, but always one of the very good ones. Young Ron Harper was a beast, though.
Cleveland runs the floor to Ron Harper, and he goes all the way to the hoop and lays it in.
Long and athletic in the isolation game of the 80s, he was a problem. One of the few guys Michael Jordan thought did a pretty good job of guarding him. Only Harper, Jordan, and Allen Iverson would average 20 points and 2 steals per game as rookies. So, of course, the Cavs would trade him. Then there's Hot Rod Williams, who once was the highest paid player in the NBA. Yes, the whole NBA, who must not have been funny at all because he was the early 90s version of Steve Harvey. Had the whole look. If he had jokes, could have hosted Family Feud. And now let's mention Craig Elo, who wasn't exactly lovable, but has been relegated to a punchline by being on the wrong side of Jordan and having that obvious, yep, that's a white guy name. But he averaged double figures in points 4 straight seasons with the Cavs, was a little more athletic than you remember, and, I swear to you, was a legitimate NBA player. No, seriously. I don't even want to do this to the Cavs. Hating them on top of what's coming next just feels gratuitous. But if we must, here's Danny Ferry. In the late 80s, Duke was becoming one of the best and most hateable college programs in America. And before there was Christian Laettner, there was Ferry. Everything people hated about Duke then starts with Ferry, including being really good. He was a beast in college. He even scored 58 in a college game once, which helped make him the number 2 overall pick in the 1989 NBA draft. After a year overseas, because the son of an NBA general manager knew better than to play for the Clippers just because they drafted him, he was in the trade that sent Harper to Los Angeles. Ferry got the biggest contract in league history. Apparently, the Cavs were spenders, and for 5 years, he rode the pine and didn't average more than 8.6 points per game, while still being Danny Ferry. He also got fired as the Hawks GM a few years ago. You should look into that one. Maybe even ask Luol Deng. Okay, I'm here to say this because it's one of those moments that was erased by some form of destiny. Just like you might not remember the incredible shot Tim Duncan hit over Shaq in the 2004 playoffs right before Derek Fisher pulled one out of his keister, the hero of Game 5 in the 1989 playoffs against the Bulls could have been Elo. Here he is in the closing seconds with a backdoor cut and basket to put the Cavs ahead by 1. For this very brief moment, Craig Elo was the hero. What happened next? We'll get to that. Whew. This might take a while. Let's pick up after Elo's basket in 89. You may have seen this shot before.
Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win! They win! Set the Cleveland Cavaliers!
Now, you must know that Wilkins' defensive strategy against Jordan was to never double team him. Never, okay? Never. And guess what? No team surrendered 40 points to Jordan more than the 21 times he put it on the Cavs. In the 88 playoffs, he put 55 on Cleveland, and the Bulls beat the Cavs in 5 games. You saw what happened in Game 5 in 89. In November 1989, Mike had 54 points, 14 rebounds, and no turnovers against Cleveland. Later that season, Jordan had 69 points against the Cavs and became the 3rd player in NBA history with 60 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists in a game. This dude scored 69 points and was still passing to other people. But props to the Cavs. In 92, after losing twice in the late 80s to the Bulls in first-round series, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bulls. Chicago won in 6, and in those 4 wins, Jordan scored 33, 36, 37, and a disappointing 29 in the closeout game. Oh yeah, and MJ put him out in 93 with a buzzer beater at the same end of the floor in the same building as the shot.
2.5 seconds. Jordan again.
Hey, this have to come.
He done it again.
I mean, damn. What were the Cavs supposed to do? Sure, you can blame Wilkins for tasking Elo with guarding Jordan on the last shot in 89, but I don't know why anyone thinks Harper was going to do any better. In fact, before the shot, Jordan was 1 for 6 with Elo contesting his shots in that game. See? Didn't see that coming, did you? The Cavs did make bad decisions in this window. There's Wilkins' steadfast refusal to double-team Michael Jordan and, of course, trading Harper for Ferry. Sure, Harper blew out his knee when he got to the Clippers, but that stuff happened because stuff like that happened to the Clippers. Nothing that unlucky would happen in, Cleveland. Leaving Del Curry unprotected in the expansion draft, only to see him become part of the foundation with the Hornets, is one they probably wish they had back. There's also that time Gerald Wilkins, brother of Dominique, called himself the Jordan Stopper. Mike remembered that in the 93 playoffs and hung 43 on him. Wilkins quote after the game, "Michael didn't come out to get assists tonight, but injuries did this Cavs team in. Price's ACL tear was a freak accident when he was off to the best start of his career, and seeing how he kept up his progress after rehab, one can only wonder what he would have been without the injury. After the 94 season, Brad Daugherty's back finally gave out on him, ending his career when he was 28 years old. And that was that for the Cavs. So many good players, a great coach, and a window that would have made them legitimate contenders in any other conference in any other era. Except they kept running into Michael Jordan over and over and over. But hey, Mike wasn't the worst thing to happen to the Cavs in the 90s. These were."
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.